Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Let me give you guys a forearm shot first. See, the forearms are on point. Let's get over, let's talk about this video. All right, new study came out within the last week on pre-workouts, looking at pre-workouts. And I thought this one was interesting because you guys know my position. I've said for close to a decade that pre-workouts are a complete, and I mean a complete waste of money. They have been a scam since day one. And in fact, I've always said they're an intentionally created scam by the supplement industry. And it goes hand in hand with the sort of workouts that they prescribe. And I'm gonna get into the study in a minute, but let's talk about this part. I have maintained that influencers and even supplement companies and magazines put out workouts with really bad fatigue management that have people borderline overtrain, so that you're so tired from workout to workout that they can sell you a product, right, to help you train better, a pre-workout, so you can make it through their crappy workouts that they're giving you, right, because they have no concept of fatigue management. Same thing with half these evidence-based guys who pimp these products. Yeah, let's do 25 sets of body part, 30 sets of body part. Yeah, so they can sell you a pre-workout to try to make it through the training session. And studies have not been kind to pre-workouts in the past. So let's talk about this current one. It was looking at the bench press. Everybody's favorite exercise for those chesticles. Even though it was women and as a test subjects, they still got chesticles too. All right. So, testing their bench press. And they had three groups. They had a control group, right? So they had a control group, they had placebo, they had a caffeine only, and then they had a mixed ingredient. You guys can read all the day. If you want to know what ingredients they put in it, you can check it out for yourself. What did they find? No difference. When they tested bench press performance, how many reps to failure, how much volume they could handle, all of this stuff, there was no difference between any of the groups. So in other words, placebo works just as well as caffeine, works just as well as a mixed pre-workout that has caffeine. And they use a large dose of caffeine. Now, that's interesting because what does that mean? That means when it's in the lab and they're measuring it, there's no difference at all. It's completely worthless. You're not even getting an extra placebo effect over a placebo. Okay? The placebo produced the same performance on the bench press. Now, people will chime in and say, well, Jason, this study can only apply to women and on the bench press. Okay, fine. But you're not exactly finding a lot of other good data in support of pre-workout. So when you have one that goes to this extent, would you rather they have used men and the deadlift or men and the leg extension? I don't know. I mean, would that really have been different? Does anyone really think the data would be different? When you look at previous studies on pre-workouts, do you think you would have gotten a difference? So if they keep testing new things and they keep coming back saying, yeah, they're trash, they're worthless, they're useless, does it matter that this particular one chose that exercise and that gender? I don't think that it does. It's another one showing it's trash compared to what the full body one we had a decade ago on males. So what are we going to conclude? That men who they train their whole body don't get anything out of pre-workouts, and women who do on the bench press don't get anything out of pre-workout? What are you going to be left to fall back with? Well, that's just what this one says, that men on the bench press, but it doesn't help their entire body. But if they do bench only, it might help. Is that your argument? But if it's women who train their full body, the bench press won't help, but maybe their other lifts will. We're running out of arguments here, people, other than, but I got tricked into buying it, and I have in that investment trap, and I don't want to feel naive and stupid. So you're going to keep spending your money. So that's what this study showed. What about that other one that I mentioned? Yeah, that one didn't look at performance. It looked at over time. This one was looking at individual workouts. Did we even get an acute benefit? Zero, nothing, absolutely nothing, completely worthless. All right, but that's just this study, just on women in the bench press. But what about that other one? They did like a 10-week program to where they had the strength and conditioning coaches at the university write the programming. They had the sports nutrition department write the diet. So they gave them fantastic programming. They put them on an upper-lower split, had them gave them dietary stuff to follow, good protein intake, everything, right? They didn't get any benefit. The placebo in that one, well, they used caffeine. That's an argument people make. Well, caffeine is just as good then. Well, then why are you buying pre-workouts if caffeine is just as good? They compared caffeine with a pre-workout so strong that it got outlawed. Yet, at the end of that 10-week study, there was no difference in the gains in muscle or in strength of the test subjects on average between the two groups. All right, here's the other thing to think about. There have been studies that show that some of these other mixed ingredients reduce the effect. Some of the pre-workout blends, when it's studied in the lab, reduce the performance benefits of caffeine. So therefore, if you were taking these mixes instead of just caffeine, if we go on some of the other studies, you actually reduce the effectiveness of caffeine. So again, when people make these arguments, well, I mean, they've got caffeine in them and that works, except that the pre-workout blend oftentimes has been found to reduce the performance effects of the caffeine. It literally negatively impacts it. So in other words, you're getting ripped off. You would have been better just taking caffeine. However, in this particular study, they found that the caffeine group didn't do differently than the placebo or the pre-workout group. So what's going on here? Maybe all this stuff doesn't matter that much. I personally these days train fasted and with no caffeine. I drink water, sometimes some electrolytes in my water, right? Sometimes some potassium or magnesium or a little flavoring. That's all I take pre-workout. And you guys see me doing some pretty big tonnages some days. That's how I personally train at 47. So again, we look at all this data. It's not promising. So you have to look at this and say, how are people still buying this? They're buying it because they've been convinced and conned by the industry to buy it. And they're advertising the names of these pre-workouts. All this stuff like Rage, Primal, whatever, right? All this stuff. It's just marketing. But how many people are like, I can't even work out without my So now you're addicted to a useless product that doesn't even help you. Now you're addicted to it and you can't work out without it because you've noceboed yourself into it. This is a problem. This is a problem. And more people need to get the message out so that people understand this. Because if they realize the pre-workouts don't work, all the people who are now psychologically addicted to it will realize they don't actually need it, right? They just are getting high off of it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.